All right. So, Group Ironman is coming out in about a month. For a while now, I've received a lot of questions if I'll be playing the mode. Another question I get a lot, though I think this is more of a joke, is if I'll go for Golden Reaper on a third account. Today I'm going to answer that and share some of my thoughts and concerns on the game mode. In addition, I want to talk about some content-centric ideas for ways to play the game mode, and I also want to talk about who my personal dream team would be. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, speaking only for myself, I'm pretty much exclusively interested in hardcore ranked Group Ironman. Since that is not expected to come out on release, I will most likely not be playing on release. I already have my Ironman, Cynthia, that I'm very dedicated to. Joining a casual, normal Group Ironman doesn't really interest me. Hardcore Ironman adds a thrilling layer to the gameplay. Watching a really reliable and strong team of hardcores push through the endgame, doing things like forced 5-man raids and AOD, all while the risk of permadeath is looming, sounds infinitely more interesting to play and watch. There's something about the stakes and the teamwork that elevates the experience. Speaking of building a strong, reliable team, that brings me to my next point. My idea of a dream team. Spot number 1. That goes to me, of course. With 5.8 billion experience, a former Greeper, max rune score, and all the countless PvM accolades I have on my main account, in addition to having an Ironman with a completionist cape, over 2.5 billion experience, ranked in the top 1000, and who's almost finished with Golden Reaper, means I know what grinding is all about. I'd be a pretty massive asset to any Group Ironman team, aiming to go very far. If I were playing Group Ironman, I would want to team up with players who share that same dedication. I'm looking for teammates who won't drop off in a few months. So I'm going to name a few content creators who I would imagine have that same commitment. While I don't know any of these players personally, and have only interacted with them rarely through comments, I believe that they'd be some of the strongest teammates possible. Their content showcases their skills and their dedication, making them ideal candidates for a ranked hardcore team. The number 1 draft pick, biggest no-brainer for me, is PubStomp. He's probably the most famous and longest standing Ironman in the game. I'm pretty sure he's IFB'd on his first account, and he's awfully close to IFB and Greeper on his hardcore Ironman. I think he's had one silly mistake where he lost Crypt Bloom and a Blessed Flask, but this guy is so hardcore that he did it all over again. Easily the best pick any team could make. The next spots are in no particular order. Pride Slayer 77. To my knowledge, I don't believe he's ever played an Ironman, but I remember watching some of his ED streams, and he's a very strong PvMer. He's got a big well of game knowledge, if you couldn't tell by any of his videos. To tell you the truth, it's hard to judge how he'd perform as an Ironman or as a hardcore, but I just think we'd get along nicely. So he's got a spot on my hypothetical dream team. Again, I don't know any of these people personally, so hopefully if any of you ever watch this, take it in good faith that this is just for fun. Spot number 3 goes to Critya. The speed that he progressed his recent hardcore Ironman was pretty impressive to me, especially as someone who was coming back from old school at the time. Learning some metas quickly like that and making it reasonably far as a hardcore before having an unfortunate death indicates to me that he'd be a very strong Group Ironman teammate. Spot number 4 would go to Raph the Boy Genius. Like Pride Slayer, I'm not sure if he's had any experience playing an Ironman, so he might be an early game liability in terms of some of the skilling and progression metas. But as an endgame player, it's very clear that he's a strong gamer and would be a valuable member when it comes to forced, small man group PvM activities, like raids and AOD. Let's also be honest, 5-man AOD would be crazy free, even if we only had like noxious weapons. But even though that I personally think that raids with 5 players or less are also easy, it's definitely not the kind of content for the Revo++ers out there, which can't really be said about AOD. So having strong PvMers on the team would be important, and in my opinion, Raph and the other gamers I've mentioned so far meet this criteria. And for the last spot on my team, I would have a hard time picking between 2 players, Rayo and Menno. Of course, he's locked himself to Legacy mode for a lot of his progression. I know if you go back in his older videos, he has a lot of strong PvM content as well, so he'd be a very strong teammate. Having the PvM knowledge and the Ironman knowledge can only be a good thing when it comes to a team setting. And lastly, Menno. I think he's a pretty under-the-radar player, but he's someone who's made and completed a series of getting a 200 Glaycore kill streak on a hardcore Ironman from scratch. And when he completed it, he did it with pretty scuffed gear too. So clearly no stranger to high-level gameplay, and arguably more importantly, no stranger to playing an Ironman efficiently either. So there you have it, my vision for a hardcore ranked group Ironman team. To recap, it'd be either Menno or Rayo, Raph, Critya, Pride Slayer, and myself. What do you think? Who would be on your dream team? Hopefully you thought that was fun and all in good jest. Let me know in the comments. I don't actually expect to form this team or to end up being invited to any strong team myself, but there we go. I also mentioned I'd share my 3 ideas of group Ironman content that I'd like to watch and wouldn't mind being a part of if the team was right for the content. Number 1, a style lock team. Now, everyone and their dog has thought of this idea, but one guy's a dedicated ranger, one guy's a dedicated major, one guy a meleeer, and they're all locked to only using those styles until they earn best in slot in that style. Then the series ends. Pretty good idea. Number 2, this is my idea that I've not seen anyone else talk about. Separate area locked group Ironman. So for example, one guy is locked to the desert, one guy is locked to the Wildy, one guy to Karamja, and maybe one guy to Asgarnia. They can only progress within their respective regions, but the group bank is allowed. So you'll likely see higher amounts of progress than your typical area locked Ironman. You must complete everything within your region to move on to the next adjacent region, and the goal is eventually for everyone to meet up somewhere in the middle, and possibly complete all regions or a quest cape or something. I'm more partial to this idea. Gear progression is cool, but probably it's only a month or 2 of content. I'm pretty sure I could speedrun an Ironman from scratch to best in slot gear of one style in 6 weeks. Number 3. I talked about this with one player, but since hardcore groups aren't expected to come out at launch, some kind of interim challenge for content, like a normal group Ironman speedrun of sorts. For example, how far could you progress in 1 month? Speedrun to a Bolg, another tier 95, or best in slot from one style from level 3. Possibly speedrun through the group Ironman achievement system. I'm not sure if this will be tiered like OSRS leagues that go from bronze up to dragon tiers, or if it'll be some kind of point system like RuneScore. But speedrunning to some kind of predetermined finish line could be a fun idea until hardcore comes out. Anyway, those are the fun parts out of the way. Now personally, I have 2 big problems with playing group Ironman. And aside from finding a team, these are probably the 2 that will actually keep me from playing the game mode. Number 1 is the cost. There's a lot of costs that you won't immediately think of when it comes to playing an Ironman, especially if you want to play that Ironman at a very, very high level and take it very far into the end game. Of course, there's the membership, and the price has gone up to about $14 a month now, so everyone thinks of that. But the first invaluable one that almost no one mentions right away are bank boosters. Bank space on an Ironman is invaluable, especially at the early stages. You want to hold on to everything, not because you're a hoarder, but because it's all going to be useful. I think you start the game with like 800 bank slots, and that'd be easy to fill up in the first few weeks. Between quest items, skilling items that you gather, your gear, you name it, it's going to take up space and fast. So realistically, you want to have the max amount of bank slots ASAP, which means paying an additional $85. Auras. From an early stream, it sounded like they have a nice plan for auras. Don't quote me verbatim, but it's something like all auras are unlocked and available from the get-go, but they're not owned. If you want to own them, you still have to buy them with loyalty points. If Majrat Aura is included in this system, this point is moot. But if it's not included, that's another 3 bonds. So call that $27. Rune metrics. Everyone hates this, man. You already know. But it is objectively useful to have your XP an hour or your DPM metrics readily available. That's literally all it's good for too. And it's another $8 a month. Of course, it's completely optional, but I would rather have it than not. Tracking my XP an hour live often helps me determine if I'm doing a worthwhile activity or not. When Necromancy came out, the way that combat XP is awarded to the player was also changed, and I don't believe that any player group has seriously tested the early game combat XP an hour metas. So when you consider going back to the start of the game on a fresh account, where the combat metas are still in a bit of a gray area, it'd be an advantage over other players when trying various monsters and slayer tasks. So all in all, creating a new account that you'd be committed to is like $200 to $280 upfront cost. So unless you're really serious about the game, I don't think that's too worth it. I personally wouldn't mind paying this if I had a strong team, but it's something important to consider. My last negative about group Ironman is it's nothing really new. Ironman mode is already so group friendly. We can already dungeoneer together, we can already PvM with anyone. There's really no limits outside of trading. As I understand it, group Ironman will introduce a new cosmetic outfit and some sort of achievement system, and that's really where the new gameplay starts and stops. As far as I know, nothing else is really unique. As a big fan of achievements myself, I think it would be nicer if that system was ported over to all accounts. I would have more achievements to chase and more content to make if I ever wanted, and wouldn't have to pay a couple $100 to do it. In any event, I'm not really a content creator anyway. I'm just a hobbyist who started doing this mostly to fill my AFK times, while chasing the profound title, and track my Irons Golden Reaper progress for my own fun. I most likely won't be playing the game mode unless I'm approached by players in my dream team, or equally high-level dedicated players. I'm not holding my breath, but my Discord is open and linked in the description. If anyone wanted to try and form a team with me, that's where to do it. So there you have it. There's all my thoughts on Group Ironman. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed with anything I had to say, and share some of your thoughts in the comments. I do read most of them. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.